Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen was in China to stress that Washington doesn't seek to decouple from Beijing, but she also went to press China on what she calls its unfair trade practices, such as flooding the global market with cheap subsidized products like electric vehicles and solar panels. So what did she achieve on her trip, and where does it leave U.S.-China relations?
Well, look, we're concerned about the possibility of surges in Chinese exports to our markets in areas where they have a great deal of overcapacity. And so I wouldn't take anything off the table as a potential response, but we really want to responsibly manage this relationship. And I think that entails being very clear at the most senior levels with the concerns we have and trying to engage in joint discussion that helps us avoid misunderstanding. In the case of overcapacity in certain areas of manufacturing, we agreed to launch an intensive exchange on balanced growth in the domestic and global economies. I've been very clear in my discussions with them that this is a concern not only to us, but also to other countries, to Europe, to Japan, and even to emerging markets, India, Mexico, Brazil. So we want to talk about our concerns honestly. We have a complex relationship. Well, we've been extremely clear, and I was clear at the highest levels in my meetings that the United States will not tolerate violations of our sanctions by Chinese banks or firms that are aiding Russia in its war against Ukraine, and that if that's done, that there will be consequences.
Did the Chinese seem responsive? Do you expect a Chinese policy to change?
I think they clearly heard our concerns and will consider them very carefully. Well, it may push up prices a little bit, but I think when you take a hard look at the numbers, it's a very modest influence on inflation. And I think it's critically important that we create jobs in the United States, good manufacturing jobs in an industry that is going to be increasingly important. We've had parts of the United States that have industrial production is hollowed out, and partly as a consequence of surging imports from China in the early 2000s after China joined the WTO. And we want to engage in trade that's mutually beneficial. There needs to be a level playing field, and China's agreed with us on that. And we're concerned about areas where the playing field clearly is not level. China is directing massive subsidies through their industrial policy on an ongoing basis. And when the demand isn't there, the Chinese firms do not go bankrupt as American firms do. They stay in the market, and that can succeed in depressing prices to the point where very competitive American firms can be driven out of business. And Europe, Japan, and other countries feel the same.